Hello friends, welcome back to the composting session. So in the last one we saw how to make a bin. Now let's see what goes inside the bin. So the things that you put inside the compost bin can be generally classified into two. So one is a brown material and the other one is a green material. So brown material is predominantly carbon rich and the green material is a nitrogen rich. So we need to have the end product compost need to have a ratio of 30:1. So where is this carbon and nitrogen coming from? So there are two important cycles in the nature that starts with the plants. So one is a carbon cycle and the other one is a nitrogen cycle. And when you have a compost bin, guess what? Both of these cycles are actually passing through your compost bin. In the carbon cycle, the plants take carbon dioxide, and in the nitrogen cycle, plants absorb nitrogen from the air, and it goes through this series of phases through this cycle, and at the end of the cycle, both of them get released back into the atmosphere. But we don't have to know a whole lot about the carbon cycle and nitrogen cycle, but just understand that we need to have the end product need to have a 30:1 ratio. So let's see some of the things that you should put inside, and some of the examples for the green material are so when you have the garden clippings, that's around 20:1. The vegetable scraps and the food scraps that you get from the kitchen, that is again 20:1, 25:1. And if you go to Starbucks, they will and ask for a brewed ground coffee, and they will easily pack one for you. And that's rich in nitrogen, and that's again 20:1. And the ground coffee that has obviously it has a caffeine as well. So when you add that into the compost, the caffeine boosts and it energizes the microbes, and it acts faster. So it's pretty good for your compost bin. So if you look at it, all these they are below the required carbon nitrogen ratio. It's all around 20-25:1, but the required target rate is around 30:1. So we need to add some brown material into it, which is carbon rich. And examples are dry leaves, and you can have some shredded paper and wood chips. Wood chips is pretty high in carbon. It is around 400:1, and the shredded paper around 175:1, and the dry leaves around 60:1. Somehow you need to drive towards a 30:1 ratio. But how do you know whether you put enough carbon material or whether you put more nitrogen material into the bin? So that's sort of easy. So if you have more carbon rich material there, brown material there, your compost level won't go down. So the composting process will happen very slowly. So if you fill the bin, and then when you take the compost, the level will be almost less than half of it. But if the level is not going down, and when you open the bin, if nothing is happening, that means the level is not going down, and you don't see any kind of soil sort of forming inside it. So that means you put too much brown material into it. So you need to add some green stuff into it. And on the other hand, if you put more green stuff into it, what happens is there is a microbes is working on it, and then you will produce more nitrates in it, and you will soon start getting a pretty bad smell. It is the ammonia smell, and that sort of smells like a cattle shed. So it has a very strong smell. So the nitrates that get converted into some of the ammonia, and some of that ammonia is released into the atmosphere as form of gas. So ammonia is a nitrogen based stuff. So when the ammonia gas escapes out of your compost bin, that means your soil or end material will have even less nitrogen in it. Even otherwise, a compost is not that suited to get the required NPK for the plants. The plants the main food of plants is NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and compost is not very great at it. So it has a ratio of 1.5, 0.53. That's their NPK ratio. And so in order to feed your plants with the required NPK, you need to go for other kind of sources. But the compost is rich in microbes. It is the microbes, whatever you add to your soil, it is the microbes that actually converts those things into the food that the plants can absorb. So you need to have a healthy balance, healthy bacteria there. You need a lot of microbes there. So compost is rich in that one. And also, apart from the main NPK, you need a lot of micronutrients, and the compost is pretty good in that sense. So if your plant is not getting enough NPK, so it's pretty easy to figure out. You will have less. The plants will show it very easily. Let's look at one of the plants that is short of NPK. So this is supposed to be my backup zucchini, and if you look at the leaves, it is getting yellowish, and its growth is sort of stunned. So it's not growing much. It's not dead yet, but it badly needs some NPK based fertilizer, and so the compost is not going to solve this problem. So now let's go into see one of the gooseberries that I have. So let's look at this gooseberry. The gooseberry is pretty green, looks very healthy. I thought I'm gonna get a ton of berries this time, but unfortunately, compared to last year, I got less than half of it. So what happens is I haven't looked at what exactly what micronutrients exactly gooseberries need, but definitely it lacks something. If you have if your plant is short of finding the micronutrients, it doesn't need it throughout the life of the plant. It needs it only when at a certain stages. For example, for when it flowers, and otherwise when the flowers turn into fruit. So in those kind of phases, if it doesn't get that micronutrient at that specific stage, it will skip that stage. The plant will look very healthy otherwise. So definitely I need to boost the compost supply for this plant in the coming months, and definitely before next spring when it's gonna bloom again. Let us look at the things that you shouldn't add into the compost. So one thing is never add non-vegetarian stuff except eggshells. So what we are talking about is a home-based domestic composting process. It has nothing to do with the industrial grade. In industrial grade, everything goes in. So don't add a non-vegetarian. It can invite a lot of pests as well as a strong smell and also unhealthy pathogens. And the same as if you add a lot of if you add a pet poop. So if you have pets at home, don't add the poop into it, because that can also have the same pathogen issue and a strong smell, things like that. Now don't add oil, greasy stuff, because inside the compost you need airflow, because the microbes, they need oxygen. So if you add a greasy material, oily material, that can block the air supply, airflow, and your compost will take longer. And again, also don't add sugary bakery stuff into it, because it can again invite a lot of pests into it, and you can get bad smells too. So don't add any of these kind of things. I'm going to add some of the mowed lawn and also the brewed ground coffee that I got from Starbucks into it. So if you go to Starbucks, they will nicely pack up ground coffee for you with a nice sticker and everything. So it's pretty cool. And add those. So now what happens, you put a lot of mowed lawn to it, and then also brewed ground coffee. So this is soon gonna, in a few days, just few days, this is gonna stink really bad because it has too much nitrogen in it, and the caffeine and the ground coffee, the microbe is gonna act pretty fast on it, and this soon will smell like a cattle shed because of the ammonia smells will start coming into it. So in order to neutralize that, in order to slow it down, I need to put some wood chips into it. Wood chips or some kind of a brown material. So I'm adding some kind of wood chips to it. Oh, I forgot to add water to it. So since I just add a material, it's not very moist. Your compost has to be moist all the time because otherwise microbes they can't survive. So I'll add some water after this. And also you need to give it a spin, or you need to move the compost bin every 2 to 3 weeks. Unless you turn the pile, it won't be evenly composting in all the parts of the bin. So that's something else. I will do it in probably a couple of weeks. So you need to do it every 2 to 3 days. Every 2 to 3 weeks. This is my carrot bed. I applied the compost here a couple of weeks back, and I wanted to talk to you about 2 mistakes that I did. So one is I eat a lot of peanuts, the ones with the peanut shells. So these peanut shells, the shells before I put into the compost, I didn't crush it. So say there's because peanut shell, it's a brown material and it takes a long time for it to compost. So when you put it, make sure that you crush it, and I don't want you to make the same mistake. And the second one is the eggshells I put as it is, but again eggshells you need to crush it. It's eggshell is a very good source of calcium, that is a macronutrient plants need. There's a nice video about the best way to handle eggshells in one of my friends Anju's videos, so you can refer to that, and she bakes it and powders it and then apply it. That is the best way if you have that much time. And the compost, it has a pH of around 6.5 and almost close to 7, so it's almost towards the neutral side. So that helps to balance the pH of your soil. Typically all plants need the soil pH to be between 6 to 6.5. So it helps. Your compost will help to bring the pH to the level that plants need. So I think that's all I wanted to talk about compost, and hope you got something out of it, and you will start practicing it. And it's a trial and error method. You will, over a period of time, you'll find that carbon nitrogen ratio and how to make it without any smell, and to get a quality compost. All right, good luck guys.